Something woke me up last night. Not a sound, the absence of one.
The dog had gone quiet. I was already moving before I was fully awake.
Because my father taught me that silence at the wrong hour means something shifted.
Took me 3 seconds to check what needed checking. No cameras, no app, no alarm system.
Just knowledge built into how I live.
People spend $400 on hardware and sleep straight through what actually matters. I'm going to count down 10 home defense tricks I taught my kids before they were teenagers.
Stick around for number 6. Most people think it's reckless.
And number 2 has nothing to do with locks, weapons, or any device you can buy. Subscribe if this is your kind of thing. Let's start at number 10. Number 10, the gravel path. Walk up to my back gate in the dark and try to be quiet about it. You won't manage it. Not because I've got sensors out there, because I've got angular gravel laid 18 inches wide along every approach a person would naturally take. Not riverstone, not mulch, not decorative chip, angular gravel. The kind that shifts and crunches under a heel in a way you can't muffle with slow steps or rubber soles. I showed my youngest how to cross it without making noise. She tried for 10 minutes. Couldn't do it. Neither could I. And I put it there. Old homesteaders knew this. They weren't decorating. They were building a passive alarm that required no power, no subscription, no battery replacement, and no signal. Motion sensors miss cats. Wind trips them. People learn to ignore them. Gravel doesn't false alarm. It just tells you something moved and where. The new subdivisions are landscaped with mulch, silent as carpet. The old farmhouses had gravel on every blind side. That gap is not a coincidence. Number 9, the stair that speaks. Most people hear a squeaky stair and add it to the repair list. My grandfather told me which step in his house to skip, just one, the third from the bottom. The family knew. Guests didn't. Anyone moving through that house in the dark would hit it without thinking, because it was exactly where your foot naturally falls when you're not paying attention. That board wasn't loose from neglect. It was placed deliberately and left that way. The pitch it made was different enough from regular house settling that it pulled you out of sleep immediately. No wiring, no app, no subscription, interior early warning that cost nothing and required nothing except remembering which stair to avoid. I've got a version of this in my house now. My kids know to step over it. Visitors don't. It's not broken. It's working exactly right. Knowing someone is moving in the dark is one thing. Knowing where they came from is another entirely. Number 8, light where you want it, dark where you don't. After a neighbor's property got hit, I spent an hour repositioning lights. No tools. Just moving where the illumination landed. Because here's what floodlighting does. It lights up your yard so an intruder can see what they're doing clearly, while you're inside trying to look outward into a wall of glare. You're blind. They're not. Old homesteaders used low side-angle light, lantern height, set at the threshold rather than above it. Light coming from that angle casts outward shadows. Someone moving along a dark fence line shows up as a silhouette against the pale siding of a barn or outbuilding. Inside the house, you can see them. Outside, looking in, they see a wall. Uniform bright outside light is not security. It's a gift to whoever is out there. The old farmers weren't afraid of the dark. They used it. Gravel, a creaking stair, controlled light. Notice what all 3 have in common. None of them cost anything worth mentioning. None of them need power. That's not a coincidence. The people who built these habits weren't buying security. They were building it into the way they lived, so the property itself did the watching. The modern mistake is outsourcing all of that awareness to devices that go dark the moment the grid does. The next few get less obvious. Number 7, the dog rotation. Most people think a guard dog is defined by whether it barks. That's not the skill. The skill is learning to read the dog's silence. Animals habituate to the normal sounds of a property. A dog that barks at every car and every raccoon is just background noise. People learn to sleep through it the same way they sleep through a car alarm. But a dog that normally makes some sound and suddenly goes completely still and quiet, that's tracking something. And that's the tell. I've been woken up twice by a dog going quiet, not by barking. Both times, something was wrong. One was an animal at the fence line. Once it was a person. The dog went still, ears up, body oriented. That's more information than a bark. A bark tells you it heard something. Silence tells you it's deciding. Same principle with chickens. A flock that goes abruptly quiet in the middle of the night isn't settling. The wrong sound to ignore is the absence of the expected one. Number 6. the stranger invitation. This is the one I almost didn't pass on because when I explained it to people, they thought it was naive, dangerous even. Inviting a stranger inside sounds like the opposite of home defense. It isn't. It's one of the more strategic moves an old homesteader had. When an unfamiliar person came to the door, the practiced response wasn't to stand outside in an exposed position with them, or to bar the door while they stood on the porch. It was to bring them in, sit them at the table, offer something to eat or drink, and talk. You controlled the location. You controlled what they saw. A seated person with food in front of them relaxes and reveals. Their story starts filling in gaps. Their eyes go where their interest goes, and you learn quickly whether something doesn't add up. Meanwhile, your family is visible. Kids come through carrying things. It looks occupied, capable, and not alone. The stranger gets a clear impression of a household that functions. I told my kids, if someone comes to the door you don't know, don't have the conversation outside. Bring them in. You'll know everything you need to know in 10 minutes. The people who barred the door in fear knew less about who was outside than the ones who opened it with confidence. Number 5, the false store. Hide everything valuable sounds like the right instinct, but old homesteaders refined it. They kept 2 supply locations, one visible and accessible, stocked with lower value goods, older tools, the kind of supplies that look useful but represent no serious loss. The real stores were somewhere else. Root cellar, secondary structure, under floorboards, a less obvious corner of a barn. An opportunist enters a property looking for something quick and useful. They find the decoy supplies, take what they can carry, and leave. They don't search further because they already found what they came for. I keep 2 pantries. My kids know which one to point to. This isn't about setting traps or being clever for its own sake. It's about accepting that in a prolonged disruption, you cannot protect everything with equal force. Concentrating your real resources in a less obvious location and leaving something findable in the obvious location controls your losses. Don't protect everything equally. That's how you lose everything. Gravel, stairs, light, silence, hospitality, decoys, 6 independent systems. None of them share a single power line. That's the point. The old approach to home defense was never one thing. It was layers, each one capable of working alone, each one adding to the others. When the grid goes down, what fails first is everything that depended on a single wire. Security built on one system has one point of failure. What comes next isn't about property, it's about people. Number 4, the neighbor compact. Your property line is not your perimeter, your neighborhood is. Old rural communities had informal understandings that nobody wrote down and nobody needed to. Somebody going to the well at first light noticed what was out of place and mentioned it. A neighbor whose barn light came on at 3 in the morning knew someone else on the road would see it and remember. Coverage overlapped without being organized. The community was the observation network. I know which neighbor on my road is always up at 5 in the morning. That's not an accident. We've talked, not formally, just enough. A slow truck on our road gets noticed by more than one set of eyes. Twice now, something happened, and the first person to know was my neighbor because I was asleep and they weren't. Ring doorbells don't communicate with each other. Neighbors can. The most dangerous neighborhoods in a real grid-down situation will be the ones where people never learned each other's names. Number 3, the no-question drill. Talking about what you do is not the same as practicing it. I learned this the hard way, and I made sure my kids didn't have to. Every old homestead family had assigned responses: who went where, who stayed quiet, who retrieved what. Practiced, not militaristically, not dramatically, but enough times that it stopped requiring thought. Because in an actual emergency, thinking takes time you don't have, and uncertainty produces noise at exactly the moment when you need silence. My kids don't ask questions in the dark. They already know where to go and what to do when the power cuts out unexpectedly or when I give a specific signal. It took 2 rehearsals a year, kept low-key, framed as responsibility rather than fear. Visitors sometimes find it strange when the lights go out and 3 kids move without being told. I find it reassuring. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your preparation. Number 2, the threshold rule. Here's what I promised in the opening. The most important thing on this list has nothing to do with locks, cameras, or any piece of hardware you can install. The real vulnerability of any household is its predictability. Old homesteaders knew this. They varied when smoke came from the chimney, when lanterns moved between buildings, when the property showed activity. Not randomly, deliberately. A property that follows a consistent, observable routine tells anyone watching exactly when it's occupied, when it's empty, when people are asleep, and when one person is alone. That information is more useful to a bad actor than anything he could learn by getting close. I vary everything. When I leave, when I'm active outside, when lights move in the house at night. My closest neighbor can't tell you my daily schedule. Neither can anyone else. Someone watching your house for 4 days can map a routine. On day 5, if that routine disappears, they move on. They want predictable. The most dangerous thing you can be is easy to predict. Social media has made this worse than it has ever been in history. People announce departure times, empty houses, and vacation schedules to thousands of strangers without thinking twice. The old instinct was the opposite. Let the property look occupied, capable, and unpredictable. And now, combine everything above. The physical signals, the animal awareness, the information you gathered, the decoys, the neighbors, the practiced family, the varied patterns, and you start to see what's underneath all of it. That's where we've been going the whole time. Number 1, situational fluency. What woke me last night wasn't a sound. It was the absence of the usual sound. I knew what my property sounded like at 2 in the morning. Which dog made which noise at which hour, where the board settled, what the wind did to the gate latch, how the gravel shifted differently when something heavier than a cat crossed it. That knowledge took years to build. It cost nothing. It has never failed. The master skill behind all 10 entries on this list isn't any specific trick. It's detailed, current knowledge of your own ground and your own people. Every warning system on this list works only if you notice the change. Every layer of defense holds only if you've thought it through before you need it. The people who survive real disruption already know which door is weakest, which neighbor is reliable, which child will freeze and which will move, which path from the house offers cover, which stair to step over in the dark. Not because they bought a system, because they paid attention long enough that their property became legible to them. Security isn't something you install, it's something you learn, and then keep learning every season as things change. That's what I taught my kids, not fear. Fluency. Pick one thing from this list and build it this week. Just one. Which of these would you teach your family first? Drop it in the comments. I read them. Knowledge weighs nothing, needs no charging, and it's the one thing that still works when everything else goes dark.